Yo, what's up, boys? Welcome to another video. So, Season 2 is right around the corner, and I thought it was time to make a tier list for the prediction of how it's gonna go. So let's just get straight into it. First off, let's get rid of all the tanks, because they do not belong in PvP, so let's not rank them. Now, let's go towards the healers. Ardruid seems decent enough. It got a little bit of buffs. Last season, it wasn't really all that. And Clone got nerfed too. But they have gotten some different buffs to clones, so their haunts are longer. So I suspect that they're low A tier or very high B tier. So let's stick them in B for now, and let's see about it. We have Holy, Holy being the absolute best healer last season with Disc. This season it hasn't gotten buffed along with other healers, so I think it's gonna fall a little bit behind. I'm still gonna put it in A because I still think it's gonna be very viable. Then we have Holy Priest. Holy Priest is not all that. It wasn't all that, and it's still not. I've yet to see one, but I've talked to a different Holy Priest, and I think it's gonna be probably the worst healer, so I'll put it in C. Now we have Mistweaver Monks. Mistweaver Monk is actually kind of interesting. It's been juggling around so many things for the recent seasons, where it's gone from, a normal healer, caster, into a Fist Weaver, into something else, into what it is now. And I think it's gonna be better than Holy Pala. I think it's gonna be A tier. Over to Disc. As I said earlier, H Pala was the best last season with Disc, and I think Disc is gonna be by far, maybe not by far, but I think it's definitely gonna be the best healer this season for sure. It's gotten rid of Rupture, but gotten other buffs, and it just looks like it's gonna do as an insane amount of healing and decent damage too. Moving over to Resto Shaman. So Resto Shaman got a lot of changes, and I'm yet to really figure out how it plays out. I played with a couple of shamans so far in some wargame shuffles, and I've talked to a couple of shamans too, and they think it's better for sure, but they don't really trust it yet, and also it's just a little bit unreliable to totem, or with the shamans being a lot of their healing coming from totems, which is easy to kill. I'm gonna put it below Resto Druid because I think it's just a little bit of a safer card. Moving on to Evoker. Evoker is really, really good, and it scales really well with skill. So I think I'm gonna put it at the second best healer. I'm not gonna put it up there with Disc because I think Disc is probably the best healer there is by a little margin, but I'm gonna put it as second best. Moving on to DPS specs, we have a big one to start off with. This one got some huge changes, and it has abilities that absolutely one-shot people. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this up at S instantly. I've played with it, I played against it, and it's really, really, really big damn. It can literally triple one-shot the whole team. So yeah, it goes up here for now. Hopefully, when they nerf it, they don't over-nerf it, and we're gonna be able to play The Walking Dead again. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I think it's probably gonna hit a nerf anytime soon, but for now it's really, really good, and I do suspect them not to over nerf it, so I'm gonna put it here in S. We have Ret. It got a little bit of nerfs, so we're still gonna be putting it kind of high. It's gonna be A tier. It's definitely not B tier. There is an argument for low S, but I'm gonna be putting it at A tier for now. Moving on to enhancement shamans. So last season it was all about Ellie shamans. This season it doesn't seem it's about shamans at all. And enhance is here. So I'm gonna put enhance at B tier. It struggles so hard when it doesn't have uptime, and everything is so mobile now that it's gonna struggle. Next up is Affliction Warlock. This was absolutely insane last season, one of the best specs by far, and I still think it's gonna continue that rampage. I'm gonna put it up at S. I'm gonna put it the highest of S right now. The foresight it has this season is absolutely insane, and it hasn't gotten any big nerfs. So I think it's still gonna be the best Warlock spec, and it's gonna stay at the throne. Moving on to DH. Last season DH wasn't that good. It got a little bit of buffs now. It's gonna be better, but I still don't think it's gonna be that good. It's still very squishy. It has decent damage, but not the biggest burst. So let's put it for a B for now. On to Feral. Feral, again, as Athlete, was one of the best specs last season. Really, really good, really solid. There has been a nerf to Clone, though, which also, of course, nerfs Feral, but it gotten some different decent buffs to its damage. So I'm still gonna put it up at S, cause yeah, that's where I suspect it's gonna be. Unholy, interesting one. It gotten a lot of decent buffs, but it's just so squishy, and I still don't think it's good enough to really take it up anywhere substantial. So I'm gonna put it at B. Moving on to Boomkin. Boomkin, as Feral, it got nerfed by the nerf of Clone. So inherently, it gets worse than it was last season. It got a little bit of changes, which takes it the other direction. It's either for me a low A or high B. I am gonna put it in B because I just don't think it's gonna be that good. Moving on to Augmentation. No one plays it. I haven't seen a single person play it this season. I've talked to Devastation Evokers and they just didn't even care about it, so I'm gonna put it in C, as it seems like it's still useless. Now, Devastation Evoker, I've talked to a couple of rank 1 Devastation Evokers, and they suspect that it's A plus to A, so we're going to put it up at A instantly. I've also played against 1 or 2, and it seems really decent, does a lot of output, and it's still just very, very difficult to deal with as a melee. BM Hunter, super good last season, still going to be super good. It got some buffs, it got some changes overall, and it's looking super decent going into the next season, so let's put it up at A. We're going to put it at top at A. So over to the other Hunter spec, Marksman Hunter, and this got a lot of buffs, and it's doing absolute insane damage right now. It can one-shot people with aim shot into a rapid shot, or rapid fire, so let's put it up at S. Next up is Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter is a weird spec. It's always decent, but never that good. It's almost always the worst Hunter spec, and I kind of feel sorry for Big Macs and other survival mains, but I think it's gonna be decent viable like it was last season. It got some buffs, so I think it's gonna be better for sure. If it's high B or low A, I'm not too sure, but I think it's gonna be viable, which is why I'm gonna put it in A here. Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage, I thought was a lot better than most people thought about last season, and I think that just came over here because they got a big ass shield, which gives them some immune off the blink, and they just got some other general changes. So I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be very decent. I don't think it's gonna be insane, but I think it's definitely gonna be viable. I'm gonna put it up in A, right below Reds. Keep in mind, boys, I have talked to different people from almost all these classes, so it's not only my own opinion on it. It's also other players who actually play most of these classes. I'm of course a Windwalker main, but I face other people as well. So yeah, I have a little bit more than just my own opinion on this, and then I just spam play the game, so get a pretty good view on what's really good, what's not, and what's in the middle. Fire Mage. So Fire Mage was the first one that really caught my eye going into this new patch. My first arena, the first 5 seconds of the solo shuffle round, my arms warrior got instantly deleted by Fire Mage. So Fire Mage damage output right now is absolutely insane. The burst is really, really high. I'm gonna put it up at A because I do suspect that it's either gonna get hit by some nerfs or it's just gonna fall a little bit short to the other spec that's here, which is the Frost Mage. So Frost Mage last season, as a lot of other specs I've talked about, it's really, really, really good, and I think it's still gonna keep the throne of mage classes, and that's why I'm gonna put it up in S. And then we have Shadow Priest. So I think Shadow Priest is the spec that got the least amount of changes, if not one of the least amount. And it doesn't really hurt the spec because it was really, really solid before. That's why I'm gonna put it up at A. I will put it at top of A. Assassination Rogue, really good last season. Pair it with Affliction Warlock, really, really solid comp. What we see up here is Affliction still at S, which means that it's also a little bit of a buff for Assassination Rogue. And I just think it's still going to be very, very good. Is it going to be as good as last season? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think there's another rogue spec that could take the throne here. So I could put it at bottom of S or top A, and I think I'm going to put it at top A here. Outlaw Rogue, I've played 2 different war games with Outlaw Rogues, and the CC is just still there. It's still absolutely insane. They do very decent damage, and the control they have over the game is just so huge you can't ignore them. I'm gonna put it right behind Assassination Rogue here after Shadow Priest. Moving on to the last rogue spec, it's Sub Rogue, and Sub Rogue seems really good. They got Duel got taken away from them, but now every single rogue spec has a change in Feigned where it does a huge amount of damage reduction. And damage from sub rogues in general are just super high, especially this patch. So I think I'm gonna move this up to S, and I think this might be the best rogue spec there is right now. On Ellie's here, it was all about them last season. Almost every comp had one, and they're kind of falling short. With the change of Primordial Wave, I don't think they're gonna be as strong. I think they're still gonna be viable. A lot of who I talked to, they thought that it's gonna be worse than I think it is. But I'm gonna put it in low A. I don't think it's gonna be worse than that. I still definitely think it's gonna be viable. It's gonna have good damage, but it's just not gonna be as good as it was last season. Moving on to Demo Warlock. So Demo Warlock is just really tanky, but it's a lot of casting, and that's not really forgiving in PvP at the moment. I do think it's still decent, but it's not a great spec. I'm gonna put it in B tier for now. Same goes with Destruction Warlock. You have to cast here to really get big damage off, and that's just not the meta. It's not been the meta for a while. The output you have is not enough, and yeah, it's not gonna be better than Demo in my opinion either. It's gonna be in a B tier. Okay, now we have a big hitter. So Arms Warrior does absolutely insane damage. The burst output from it with Demolition and Mortal Strike is insanely huge. I got hit for a 4 million Demolition into a 2 million Mortal Strike earlier, and I got, 100 to 0. So it was kind of crazy. I'm definitely going to put it up in S for now. It's probably going to hit a little bit of nerfs, but if they don't over nerf it, it still should be really good. Fury Warrior, I think it's actually worse than Arms now, because it doesn't have that big chunks as Arms does. It's still a really good spec. It still does a lot of damage. I'm gonna put it in top of A, as I do think it falls a little bit short compared to Arms at the moment. And now moving on to the last spec, Windwalker Monks. So I played Windwalker Monk for 7-8 years now, I think, non-stop as a main. It's been some rough time. We've been very bad for a long time, especially last season was a new low, I think. It was really hard to be a Windwalker main, and it wasn't very enjoyable. And that totally just flipped on a plate for this season. It's a lot more fun. We have way more damage output. We have a good amount of burst windows with a Fast Fisted Fury, a Strike the Windlord, and a new ability, Slicing Wind, which can do baseline 20% of someone's health if you don't crit, and if you do, it can do up to like 40 to 50%. So it's a huge ability, and it's just a very fun spec at the moment. You do lose a little bit of mobility, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem, because the damage output from it is really going to do up for it. So yeah, I'm liking Windwalker Monk right now a lot. It's a really good, really strong spec. It does an insane amount of damage and has decent defensives. So I am going to put it up in S tier. I don't want to be biased, so I'm going to move it up there. Maybe you could make an argument for A. I'm not going to do it because, yeah, I'm going to leave it in S. I think it does belong there, so it's fair enough. But yeah, that's my prediction tier list for season 2. If you liked it, boys, leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment if there's something you disagree with or agree with, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.